There's been a lot of talk. There's been a lot of news. There's been a lot of rumors about who the Bulls could potentially target in free agency and in trades this offseason. There's been a lot of talk about who's on the Bulls draft board and who is not. Today's episode, we're going to round up all the talk around the Bulls. We're going to look at all the mock drafts and who they have the Bulls taking as well. And we're going to dive into the mailbag. We're going to do all that plus more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content today, y'all. And we're going to start off with rumored trade targets around the Chicago Bulls, or acquisitions, free agent targets, a mix of all of it, right? We got 5 players so far that the Bulls have most commonly been rumored around acquiring, right? The first one up is Daniel Gafford. This is what kind of an early in the offseason rumor with the Dallas Mavericks potentially being interested in Lonzo Ball and the interest that lies there and how that could lead them to try to get Daniel Gafford. Reportedly, the Mavs are going to be searching for a point guard, and either Derek Lively or Daniel Gafford is the avenue that they're going to use to try to get there. And Daniel Gafford is still, I think people forget, like with how young how long he's been in the league, he's still only 26 years old. So actually does quite fit the Chicago Bulls timeline. And a matter of fact, if he is able to get there, now the question is that what is it going to take? I don't think you're going to get Lonzo for Daniel Gafford straight up. I think you're going to have to include some seconds, something like that at a bare minimum, maybe even more than that, depending on how they look. Maybe it's a 3-team trade. The Bulls do have some expiring contracts as well, maybe that the Dallas Mavericks are interested in. So, there could be some interest there. The biggest question in this is that how interested are the Dallas Mavericks really in Lonzo Ball? They're looking for a point guard that can fill in while Kyrie Irving is out. The questions around Lonzo, though, is that when he's unable to stay on the basketball court. Now, I think if Lonzo had, if he was on the court more, it's an easily movable contract. I think that's why the Bulls, when they signed him to that $10 million contract, a lot of people looked at that and said, hey, that is an easily movable deal. And Gafford's on a $14 million deal, right? So that actually the Bulls can absorb that into their into one of their trade exceptions without needing to match the salary 100%. So there's a lot of avenues that can get it done, and it does seem like it's a realistic deal as far as all the machinations, right? The contracts work, the fit works with a team. He can literally plug into what you have going on there. He's good, all those type of things. It all fits. So that's there. The question is Lonzo their third option if they strike out on other ones? There's players like Trey Jones, Tyus Jones out there in the free agent market that probably aren't going to take a huge amount of salary to get, right? There's other players they can go after. Rumored they have some interest in Drew Holiday, even though that's a huge contract. Chris Paul's out there as a veteran who can come in and fill in until you wait for Kyrie to come back. So there's a lot of different things and avenues that I think would come before that. But Daniel Gafford as a player makes a lot of sense for the Bulls and what they need, the play style, getting out in pace, catching lobs for Josh Giddey. All that's there. Would not mind Daniel Gafford on this team at all. I wonder if that would come. Does that mean that the Bulls aren't going after a big in the draft? Or would Daniel Gafford be the starting level big while you're waiting on who you draft to come in and be ready to start, right? That's the question there. Next up, a guy that a lot of people like in Cam Whitmore. Cam is probably the best upside guy of all of this, which means he's probably going to take a lot to get. I think that right now the Houston Rockets, Cam Whitmore is going to be one of the pieces that they dangle and trying to go out and get a star. Reportedly they're there ready for Giannis or Kevin Durant to make that pivot on either one of those guys. That's perfectly fine. Cam Whitmore still being extremely young, I would love on this team. I think he's going to be 21 the majority of next season. He was a late first-round pick, so his salary is only $3.5 million. It goes into $5.4 million the year after that, then restricted free agency. So rather than, you're not doing the Josh Giddey thing. You would have 2 seasons left on his rookie scale deal before you have to make a restricted free agent decision on Cam Whitmore. And I like that a lot. I think that he comes in, he could be a scorer for you. He's shown a little bit of defense as well. He really slides into that role. The question is he going to be able to shoot the 3 consistently, right? But for players that have still are young with some experience, Cam Whitmore is there. And would the Bulls be willing to part with one of their future firsts to get him is the question there. If they are willing to do that, maybe that's something that could be gotten there, and then they can turn around and use that asset in another trade that the Houston Rockets are trying to get a star. Maybe you can work in as a third team in that. There's a lot of different options, but Cam Whitmore is probably one of my favorite guys on this list as well, just because of he fits what this team has, and he's a way less risk than like a Jonathan Kuminga, because you don't have to pay him right away. And I think even when he does go through restricted free agency, unless he has two amazing seasons the last 2 years of his rookie deal, he's not going to get a huge contract either. Next up is Jonathan Kuminga. Now, this is the guy that a lot of Bulls fans like, right? The rumor started up, and and even me, I convinced myself on, all right, if they do go after Kuminga, this is why, and the reasons why kind of make some sense, right? Going after him, getting a guy that has shown an ability to be a scorer in this league. I think he is a ball dominant scorer, so the fit is going to be mad questionable. You're taking shots away from Modest Buzelis and his potential offensive development there as well. But overall, if they see Jonathan Kuminga as, again, AK said it out plainly, adding young players with experience. And Kuminga is that, even though he hasn't played a lot on the Golden State Warriors team. The question that, of course, you're asking yourself is that if he couldn't crack the rotation in Golden State, why would he be able to do it here, right? And, he was asked to play within the confines of an offense that maybe could be a little bit different here with the Bulls getting out in transition, things like that, having a point guard that creates like Josh Giddey. But, overall, like I just, the Kuminga thing, because of the contract and the questionable fit, is not necessarily one of my highest on the board of acquisitions I would like the Bulls to make. Like I said, I can understand some of the reasons if they decide to do that, but just some questions there. Next up, the two players, both from Minnesota, Naz Reid and Julius Randle. Now, this is something that we got early last week, is that the Bulls have been rumored as one of the teams that are interested in both these guys. Julius Randle, to me, doesn't make any sense. I don't think the Bulls, he's a ball-dominant power forward that can score. He's really good in that area. But to me, that's the type of move that you make when you're already a playoff team and you're trying to make something that you're lacking there to get yourself a little bit over the top. Naz Reid makes a lot of sense for the Bulls. I think he's a more seamless fit. He is still going to be expensive, almost just as expensive as Julius Randle. No, he's probably going to get about $8 to $10 million less. But Naz Reid, I do love the idea of him coming over here. I think what he brings in three-point shooting, defense, the mentality, all those type of things work. And I think, with the Wolves and their cap situation, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Julius Randle, Naz Reid, they're not going to be able to bring one of those guys back. Now, that's if Julius Randle, I think, if he opts out, which he may opt into that deal and then wait to go into the free agency of 2026. We'll see what happens there. But if I had to pick between those two, Naz Reid is the guy that I like a little bit more, right? Well, quite a bit more, to be honest with you, mainly because of the defensive aspect. And I think that's something that we really need here. I think also Naz Reid can play the 5. He can slide into the 4 if you get your 5 as well, and he brings that versatility. He can guard multiple positions. Didn't have the best playoff run, but I don't think that's going to hurt his value too much. It's going to hurt it a little bit, but I don't think it's going to hurt his value too much on the free agent market. But that's the list. That's around it right now, kind of the main names being mentioned around the Bulls. Of course, there's been some off mentioned players like Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He was mentioned by outlet. We did talk about him, but that was kind of mentioned as a one-off and then moved on. But these are kind of the names that are most commonly talked about around the Chicago Bulls. Let me know which one of these acquisitions would be one of your favorite. Which one do you think makes the most sense for the Bulls? Let me know that down below. But also, it's how free agency and the draft fit together, right? That's a really important thing when you're looking at building a really good offseason. And so with the Bulls picking number 12, they have the chance, especially in this draft, to add a really good talent. So I want to look at the mock-ups, something we're doing once a week. Some of these I realize have not updated since the last time that we've done this list. So, that is what it is. But for the interest of fairness and using the same outlets, we're going to use the same ones even if they haven't updated it. So the Ringer still has us drafting Jase Richardson. The Ringer has not been updated on their mock draft since May 12th. So we're going on almost a month since they updated it. I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of next week there is a new mock out by the Ringer. But as of right now, with it not being updated, they still have us drafting Jase Richardson. Now, we've talked about Jase, his limitations as a player at the NBA level with the size, not really a high-level athlete, those type of things. But can't deny the kid can absolutely fill up the he can score the ball, right? And so because of that, you're looking at him as a bench producer, and if he could end up eventually becoming a starter, that's great. But because of the size and the position, it's not really a position of need, not really as high on him. But the Ringer has us drafting Jase Richardson. Bleacher Report has us drafting Collin Murray Boyles. Now, my thoughts on Collin Murray have been made very clear. They've been triggering, and BR and ESPN, they're the same mock, by the way. They're written by the same person. They haven't been updated in a while either, but they have the Bulls drafting Collin Murray Boyles. Now, defensively, there's no holes in Collin Murray Boyles' game. It comes down to the offense, right? And he's not going to be able to score the same ways that he did in college. He's just not going to be able to. He was able to operate as a ball-dominant player, but albeit kind of inefficient, right? He doesn't really create his own shot really well. The lack of size and the release on that shot is going to be more difficult. So not to say he can't eventually find his offense at the NBA, but he's going to have to score very differently than what he scored in college. And so you're looking at the defense being the thing where he impacts the game the most right away. And do you want to take a player that's probably going to be a specialist, at least for the beginning of their career, at number 12? That's the question that the Bulls have to face themselves there. But they haven't worked them out yet in one-on-one workouts. We'll see what happens there. NBADraft.net, which is my preferred mock draft, not because of who they have the Bulls drafting, but because they update it all the time. They'll go based off who's working out who, what they're hearing. They do a lot. They update sometimes multiple times in a week. They did update at the beginning of last week. They have the Bulls actually drafting Nick Clifford, which they're one of the only mocks that have Nick Clifford going up that high. I don't know if that means that they've heard something or whatever else, but him going 12th is kind of high. But this is a guy that at 6'6", 200 pounds, he can fit into that shooting guard, small forward role. I do think that the fit with Josh Giddey, if the Bulls were to draft him, is a really good fit on paper there. Now, I say on paper because you never know exactly how that's going to work off. He moves off ball really well. He can guard multiple positions. He's a really good pull-up threat. The three-point shot is streaky for Nick Clifford at this point in time, but there are some things to show that he can do that. He rebounds really well for his position, so that's really good to see. So there's that thing. He's drawn some comps to like Josh Hart is one of the comps for him. Justin Holiday, Moses Moody, those are some of the comps for him. When like I said, I'm kind of surprised that they have him going this high. Cody Martin's another comp for him, but this is a guy that I think has a really high floor. The ceiling, that's where it's going to be. How can he grow as a scorer at the next level is really going to determine his ceiling. But I like Nick Clifford, and I think that he's a player that definitely can help out. But I like him a lot. I just don't know if I like him there at 12 for the Bulls. Yahoo Sports has the Bulls drafting Drake Powell. It's a guy that we've talked about a lot, a guy that can play the three, maybe even small ball four, maybe even the two as a larger two. Tremendous upside there for Drake Powell as a 3-and-D player. Really good off-ball movements, those type of things. I like him a lot. Again, at 12, it may be a little bit of a reach, but some mocks are starting to have him going pretty damn high. So there you go there. And then no ceilings. They haven't updated in a while either. They have the Bulls drafting Thomas Sorber, one of my favorite prospects as a center in this draft. I think what he does in blocks and steals and doesn't foul. The rebounding is solid enough. The scoring upside is there for him as well. He's one of the more well-rounded prospects in this draft. A little bit of a reach there for him, too, at 12 with how some of the things are working out, even though he's moved up some. Asa Newell in a lot of mocks are going 11th now, so you never know what's going to happen with Thomas Sorber. But that's kind of the roundup. So the main mocks, Jase Richardson, Collin Murray Boyles, Nick Clifford, Drake Powell, Thomas Sorber. Let me know out of those guys who are some of your favorite guys that you have are seeing going to the Chicago Bulls. Now, it is Saturday. That means it is Mailbag Day. We got 4 voicemails today. Let's go ahead and get to the first one. This one's from Corn.
What it don't do, King Drip, it's your brother Corn. Let's get into it right the fuck now. Hey, man, your brother be on vacation, man. Your brother be out there, man. I'll be outside, man. I'll be outside. So excuse me for not leaving, the voicemail. But we back. We back like we never left. Okay, we back, all right? So, who we gonna talk about today? Let's talk about Coby, man. Hot topic, Coby White. It's just, I'm always on the fence with him because I know you gonna bring out the numbers and shit, but to me, I feel like this is, the prove-it year if we do keep him, if we don't trade him, but I am always up to trading Coby White. I understand what we see from him, but I don't understand I want to see him really take the step up, man. Like you say, like a Jalen Brunson. See, I'm still watching. You didn't think I'm not. I'm still watching. See, that comparison sometimes puzzled me sometimes because I don't know if he have that in him. And what I mean by with Jalen Brunson just don't score. Yes, he scores. Scores in bunches and all that, need the ball dominant guard. But what else are you? I want to see him elevate the team because Coby is going to go on a slump. But what are you going to do after that? I want to see you do the little things if you do go on the scoring slump. Get your defense up. Get your teammates more involved. Just get better at the little nuances of the game to get you to that next level. But again, if there is a perfect chance in a scenario that we can trade Coby, I am always up for that. And I know a lot of people disagree. It is what it is. Like I said, this is a proven year for me. I want to see consistency throughout the year. I get it. He just still got to prove some shit to me. All right, King Drip. I'll be back to leave another one tomorrow, man. Like I said, we back like we never left at this dish, man. All right, C-Red Nation. Peace.
Saying Coby needs to prove things is understandable, right? I think where I get at is I disagree with people say things like, oh, Coby White is maxed out. He's capped out already. And I'm like, I personally don't feel comfortable saying that about somebody who's 25 and has played a different role every single year of their career. I want to see Coby White and see what he does with the opportunity of staying in the same role that he left one season with and come into the next season with. That's really what I want to see. Now, at the same token of that, I can understand I don't want to see the Bulls trade him, but I can understand if they do. And that comes down to, do they feel like what they are going to offer him is something he's going to take, or do they know that they don't want to invest $75+ million potentially in a backcourt of Josh Giddey and Coby White? There's things there's legitimate conversation to be made on both sides, right? So I can understand that. My thing is just when people say things like I said, like, we got to trade Coby because he's maxed out, or people have an unrealistic idea of what his value is going to be on the trade market. But I'm excited to see what he looks like this season. Hopefully he can be more consistent per your thing. And Coby had a more consistent year last year. I mean, I think that he had one bad stretch there, which players are going to have. But other than that, I think Coby White was pretty consistent last year. He's going to have to prove that he can do it coming into the season, being expected to be the number one scoring option. And we'll see what happens there. But overall, there's a lot of different things that can happen with Coby. And like you said, if it's a good deal, then it's a good deal, right? It's going to suck to see Coby go, but if they make a smart deal that makes sense, then you make a smart deal that makes sense. So we'll see what happens, though. All right, let's get into this next one, man. This one's from Mark.
Hey, Hayes. Big fan of the show. My name is Mark. So I keep hearing us talk about Cedric Coward. I think he's morally one of the worst prospects in the draft. We need to stay away from that prospect. I was watching one of your videos. I don't usually watch them every day, but I watched one of your videos where you talk about him being a reach. We don't need any more Patrick Williams types of players. I don't want a high-level role player being picked at the 12th. I want someone who is going to be, but I'm going to take it back, not necessarily a high-level role player, but I don't want somebody who's going to be a project or just a specialty guy. All right. I'm still pissed at AK when we could have had Tyrese Halliburton at number 4, and we picked a guy that didn't even start on this team, who has not shown any productivity at all, yet we picked him at number 4. I'm still pissed at AK about that. I'm still pissed at AK about all the stupid moves that they've made in the draft, trading draft capital when they didn't need to do that. We didn't need to trade for Vooch. As good of a player that he is, we didn't need to trade. We needed to build through the draft. We could have been where OKC is or the Pacers are right now had he been smart with his draft pick. But saying all of that, for the love of God, please do not draft Cedric Coward. He's slow. He's slew-footed. He isn't as accurate as a shooter. He's built like a power forward in a small forward / shooting guard body. I do not want him on my team. He kind of reminds me facially of Tyrone Hill. All jokes aside, I just don't. We do not need to draft that dude. He is not that good. I hate the hyping of players right before the draft. But that's all. That's it. That's all I wanted to say. For the love of God, do not draft Cedric Coward.
All right, the thing is, right, like most players that are going to draft 12 is going to be a project. And the people who keep using P. Will as a comparison, P. Will's skill set isn't a problem. P. Will actually has a really good modern skill set for the NBA. It's the fact that he doesn't have a drive. And now, even you saying things like Cedric is a power forward body as a small forward. No, he's not. Like, I don't know if you caught up to the modern NBA game, but Cedric Coward has the perfect wing body, 6'5", 213 pounds. That's not a power forward body. It's a small forward. That's a wing. And you even say like he did get hurt last year, but he was averaging 17 points per game. Had he kept that up for a full season, I don't think there would be a question there. So I think that you have this thing, and I think a lot of people have this thing where if they compare something to P. Will, they automatically get this PTSD. And it's like P. Will. The problem was P. Will's drive. Like, and that's one thing you can't project. P. Will, if he actually had better heart, he would be well worth the 4th overall pick. The problem is that he doesn't have that drive. He doesn't have that heart. It doesn't seem like he has that desire to be great at basketball. Cedric Coward actually seems like he does have that from what we've seen from him. Now, I do also, and I brought up my things, and like when a player rises this much, there's a little bit of concern there, right? Like, and for people that talk about Cedric, like, oh my God, he's the perfect guy. He's going to be a star. I don't necessarily see that yet. I think of course, you see a little bit of the potential to be that, but he has to work a lot on his game. But there are some things, catch and shoot, defense, being a two-way player. There are a lot of things to love about Cedric Coward, man. And he doesn't have that drive issue like P. Will. So, but we shall see what happens, Mark. All right, let's get into this next one, man. This one's from Vikram.
What's up, Hayes? It's Vikram. How you doing? I got 2 quick, well, I guess like relatively longer thoughts. But one is a question, more of like a fictional thing. Like, if you were a GM of the Bulls, if you were AK, I guess, how would you approach this offseason? Because personally, and how would you also approach like next year, 2026? Because personally, I feel like a good avenue to approach is to get your athletic wing that can pair up with Modest, or trade Coby and possibly get like Cam Whitmore in 10 with like Coby White in 12 swap if you want to do something like that. I don't know. That's how I would approach it. Get in Naz Reid, because I think Naz Reid works really well with this style of offense. Let's get all those open driving lanes, kickouts, as well as Coby White. We don't need to be like a real playoff team. That's not our goal. Our goal is to get better, see what we got. So I think that's how I would approach the offseason. Let me know how you would do it. Second, I know you said that Bulls fans like to overrate their players, specifically after my message about Coby White trade value. No, I think your point is valid. Like, yes, fans do overrate players' trade values, but I also think people acknowledge what Coby White has done in that he's not just like this inconsistent scorer. I think people, at least around like YouTube or Twitter, things like that, people really see Coby White's value. And I saw a mock trade from a relatively unbiased person who's more realistic. I don't know if you know him, 6 Rings of Steel. He made a mock trade. I think this is still too rich for Coby White, but he said Coby White for Tristan da Silva, Anthony Black, the 16th pick, and some other salary filler. I don't know. But my perspective is I think we could get an Anthony Black in 16, if anything. But also, I really do like that 2026 pick. Let me know what you think based on that, if that changes your view of Coby White's trade value. I don't know. Maybe this could open up other avenues to, like, what you think possible trade ideas could be. Let me know. Just, yeah.
I don't think you can have a summer of 26 plan without knowing what happens in 25 first. And Vikram, I'm not somebody who plays fantasy GM. Like, I don't like to do that. Like, I'm too much of a literal thinker sometimes. But just in the interest, because you are a big supporter of answering your question, I think my biggest thing is just finding clarity. How I attack this offseason, I draft a center at 12. Whoever was the number 1 center on my board, I'm drafting that center. I'm going to try to trade back to the end of the first round. I'm going to try to get another talent in here. And that's what I'm going to do. Then in free agency, I'd make a shot at Naz Reid to see what we can get there, but it's more about clarity. I like It's more about adding those type of things. But I don't have like a huge list. Like when people do the thing in the comment section where it's like, all you do is you do this, then you make this trade, then you sign this guy, and then you trade. Easy. And it's like, I don't, my brain doesn't work that way, if that makes sense. Now, as far as Coby's value, I do think Anthony Black in 16, that's about the value that you see for Coby. The people I disagree with are the people who say, oh, you can get multiple first-round picks for Coby. No, you're not going to get multiple first for Coby. But I think Anthony Black, number 16, a young player right outside the lottery pick, I think that's decent value. You're never going to get all, like, no matter how you value Coby, you're not going to get all of that value either. It's the job of the other teams to try to talk you down, right? But I think that's a decent value for Coby White, especially in a deep draft like this. But again, we'll see what happens with Coby. I don't know if the Bulls move Coby. Don't want to see them move Coby, but I do realize there's an option out there. All right, let's get into the last voicemail, man. This one's from Josh.
What up, Chicago Bulls Central? This is Josh out in Arizona. I'm calling right after I seen, I think, the last video or last live about executives saying like it's time to trade Coby White, or they don't think Coby White is going to be here on in this next upcoming season and whatnot. And I don't know. I think on like the value of Coby White, I think, like you said, us as Bulls fans are definitely rating him higher, which I do think he reaches that value. Like, in my opinion, I think Coby White is worth a first-round pick and a decent young player. However, I believe, like, to the rest of the league at this very moment, he's not worth that at all. The best we could probably get is a late first round. And so people are saying that like we should maximize on like his value while it's high, but I still don't think it's as high as it could be. I think it could definitely get higher, and if you really wanted to trade Coby before his contract negotiation and all that, before his free agency, I mean, you could probably get him off by the trade deadline next season. You feel me? I think that would be the best option, just looking at it from a logical point of view. But I know AK and them boys ain't always logical. But yeah, I believe the best option would be to keep Coby into next season, at least up until the trade deadline. I want to keep him forever, but just logically speaking, at least until the next trade deadline to make sure, like, feel me, there isn't any more value we could squeeze out of him. Because, in my opinion, I think like a decent trade that I would see for Coby White in the future would be like maybe to the Timberwolves for like Terrence Shannon Jr. and their first round pick. That's where I would put his value, but I know the league isn't there yet, so let's just hold on. Let's hold on to him. Don't jump to conclusions. Let's watch how this next season goes. Be ready.
Problem with waiting until next year's deadline is that Coby has to get an extension between now and then, Josh. And that's where things change. Right now, making an acquisition for Coby at $12 million is a lot easier than potentially having to match salaries on a $30 million contract. That's why you see like teams and kind of the market for players kind of go away after they sign a contract. So I don't think the Bulls can wait. If they know that they don't have Coby as part of their long-term plans, I think that they have to move him between now and the trade deadline. And again, that's if they don't have that. They very well could not. After you sign a larger contract, it gets more difficult because then teams are looking at you like, you're on a $28 million contract, but and especially if Coby, maybe if he doesn't have the most consistent season, right? So you're worried about those things. So I think for the Bulls, like they don't have that luxury because he's not under contract next year as it stands right now. And keep in mind, he's going to go under unrestricted free agency. So the Bulls can't really afford to nickel and dime him when he goes to unrestricted free agent because what if another team comes with a bigger offer? In the summer of 26, there are going to be a lot of teams that are shaped up to have some cap space. So you got to look at those things, right? So we'll see what happens, but I don't think waiting until next trade deadline is the best option if you want to move him. Now, if you want to keep him, don't worry about that. Just try to keep Coby. So we'll see what happens though, Josh. But that's my time for today, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following us at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. bullscentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.